Welcome to the Bookish Ballerina Podcast, where we talk about ballet, stories, art, science, economics, music, and everything in between. I'm your host, Eleanor Stewart, and I am a rather bookish ballerina. Today my guest is Mr. Israel Rodriguez, my teacher from when I was growing up at Mobile Ballet in Alabama. He is also a wonderful dancer from Camagüey, Cuba. Today he talks about what it was like growing up in Cuba, as well as what it was like moving to Mexico and then the United States. I hope you are as excited about this as I am. Welcome! I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me here, of course. I'm very excited about this. I know it's something that you're doing new in your life, and I wish you the best, and I'm here to answer any question you want. So I'm all yours.
Thank you. All right, so first, what is your story, all of the important parts, favorite parts of your life and career?
Let me try to make it as condensed as possible. I was born in Cuba, and I started to dance at the age of 9. And the reason I started to dance was because in our country, every few years they will bring teachers from different arts, like music, arts, dance, you name it. And each of the students will go through all of the tests. And I did a test for dance, and the reason is because my mother wanted to try for me to kind of be away from the street. And before I continue, it's funny because most Cubans kind of come from the same background and why we left and stuff like that. In my case, I didn't want to be a ballet dancer at that time. I was very, even now. And I started doing martial arts, and then my mother she told me, what if you do ballet first? It's a great school, great teachers, and she wanted me to try that first. What I loved to was filmmaking before. Yeah. And
I see.
Yeah. So I needed to wait another 2 years, and then my mother advised me to go to the dance school first, and then from there she will transfer me, something that never happened, and I don't regret it, and I'm so thankful, especially because I started to have some problems on my knee when I was around 10, and I think I mentioned it to you at some point, and that was something that made me to love what I was doing. And I spent if I'm not mistaken, around 7 to 8 months in a cast from my hips down, and I had to learn to walk again. And I'm thankful to one of my teachers, Maria Cristina Palacios. She found somebody who could help me instead of doing surgery. They decided for that. So that's how I became a dancer in Cuba. Then I was lucky enough to be selected. I spent 8 years in the school, as we all. Then you're selected to become professional. And it was very hard. In Cuba, always was hard. I can call myself lucky, and, I became a professional. And then I started working with Ballet de Camaguey. And then we traveled a lot of places. And that was in 1994 when I decided to stay in Monterrey, Mexico.
Mm-hmm. So what was the process of you joining Ballet de Monterrey? How did that happen?
We were in a tour, the whole company of Ballet de Camaguey. At that point, obviously, Fernando Alonso was not the director of Ballet of Camaguey. He was actually directing. Yeah, as you know, Fernando Alonso is the founder of Cuban Ballet, along with Alicia Alonso. Yeah. So he left Cuba, and he went to do many other things. But when I went to Monterrey, he actually happens to be the director of Ballet de Monterrey.
I see.
Yeah, we said Ballet de Monterrey is Ballet of Monterrey,
Yeah.
But then I have friends there already that they have left already the company, and they were there. Very good friend of mine. And with that sort of tied to the way I came to United States. And the director, like asked if I would like to join the company. And obviously I needed to talk to my director. I needed to talk to basically my country.
Yeah.
I didn't want just to affect. I wanted to be able to come back to Cuba and everything. Monterrey and Cuba made a pact that I will stay in Monterrey as long as I continue supporting Cuba.
I see.
And yeah, so I was paying certain amount of money to being able to be there. So I was okay with that. When I moved from Camagüey, Cuba to Monterrey, I was so happy, so happy.
Yeah.
I was working with Fernando Alonso again, which along with other teachers, everything I know today, I owe it to him. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. So I stayed there for, I believe, 5 years in Monterrey, Mexico. Then Fernando Alonso left.
Okay.
And that was tied to Fernando Bujones, a dream come true, meaning when I met him, in Cuba, many female dancers wanted to dance with him, and male dancers wanted to be like him, and Baryshnikov and everything. And I always wanted to meet him, like many of us. And when I got to Monterrey, and I heard a rumor that Fernando Bujones was possibly directing the company in a year or so, I was waiting that moment like, woo! It was so great. So I met him personally, and he was the one who gave me the role of principal dancer. If you can say that, the role of the category of principal.
Yes.
Cool. That is Monterrey. Yes.
Yes. So I know, he was the director there in Monterrey for a while, and then he also later was the director in Orlando. So what is the whole story with all of that, and with y'all as well?
There was a point around 1998 that the company of Monterrey was going through some economic issues, like plenty of companies, Mm-hmm. And that was a point that there were not enough support, and unfortunately the people who had to do with that decided to close the company. And we all of a sudden, every single dancer were out of job. And so we were struggling, looking for work to dance and everything. And I was blessed that the friends that I have there in Monterrey, they moved to the United States a few years before that. And one of them, Norbert Risco, who actually is the director of Ballet Theater of Lexington, if I'm not mistaken. At that time, he was a dancer. So we spoke, and he said, hey, listen, we are actually opening a new company here in Lexington. Would you want to come over here and work with us? And I obviously say yes, because now another dream that everyone had from Cuba and everywhere is to go to the United States, And I got very lucky that I was given the visa to come to the United States. And then I started to work. At that time, I think it was a Lexington Ballet, something like that.
Okay.
And it was directed by Fu. That's the director of the company at that time. And then Norbert was the teacher, the dancer. So we were dancing together. But it was a small group. I was basically, I think it was only 3 males over there, 3 dancers. And I had to dance a lot. So that's how I got to the United States. And my goodness, it is something that I would never forget, how I got there for the first time, new air, new everything. It was, I feel very blessed and lucky because I know a lot of my peers, they didn't have the same blessed or the same luck of coming to this without going through a lot of risk,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And didn't you say, I know you told us at Mobile Ballet the story of how when you came to the U.S., you didn't really speak English at that point, did you?
I still can't speak English. Actually, no, not at all. Even though we take English class at our school, it's not the same when you don't speak it. There's a common sense. And when I came to USA, I didn't speak anything at all. And they would make fun of me in a good way, because I was saying one thing and then it meant a lot. But the thing is, I love languages so much, and I don't think I wanted to take my accent out of my voice, but they said, "No, don't do that," and I'm okay with it. I started watching TVs, and I would start watching all the TVs, movies, and stuff without Spanish subtitles and anything, all English, and I love languages a lot, and I try to learn. I think I mentioned that to you too, and so when I started to work with them, everyone needed to translate everything I had to do it and everything. I remember one time, very quickly, there was one of our dancers. It's very funny because she is actually a very beautiful girl. And she was crying. And I came to her and I said, "Why are you so ugly?" And she looked at me. For one reason, she was crying. She didn't do the variation right. I don't remember. And I was like, "Why are you so ugly?" And she looked at me like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Yeah, you crying. What are you so ugly? What is the problem?" And she understood that my English was very limited. And I go like, "Why she's, I'm just asking her a good question. Why she's so weird about it?" So I left. And then I came to I was living with Norbert Risco, my friend, and Rafaela, his wife. And they were so nice that I was their roommate for a long time, and they helped me a lot. And so I got there, and I go, "Hey, this girl, Melissa, I think that's her name." And like, I don't know why, she's kind of weird, because I told her, like, "Why are you so ugly?" And she's crying, and I was worried, like, "Why are you so ugly?" And then immediately they laugh, and they go, "What?" So Israel just called one of our beautiful girls ugly. What does that mean? That means fea, which means ugly in Spanish. He said, like, "Do you mean angry?" She was angry. Like,
Got it.
I was so embarrassed the next day. She knew already because they told her. And I apologized. She was laughing. So it was very limited. But I bought a dictionary and a notebook, and I started translating a lot of words that I need to know. So.
That's so cool. That's a funny story. Oh my goodness.
It was embarrassing, but it was fun.
So what are some of your favorite career moments?
I have so many, to be honest. I have so many. When I was in Cuba, I didn't get to do a lot of principal roles, to be honest. I wasn't. I was always focused, and I was always trying to work as hard as possible. So I didn't get a lot of time to be on stage as a soloist. Once I became a soloist, then they start giving me little things, but still, I wanted to do more. So when I got the opportunity to do my first big role, is called in Spanish, La Coda del Suspiro. If you translate that in English, it would be like the last, when you go...
like a sigh?
The last sigh. Yeah, that's basically what it is. That was, I believe it was a 45-minute ballet that I had to do. And I think if I went out of stage, it was probably once. I had to be dancing a lot. I was the only guy, and then there was actually another one he was playing my father on that. So that moment, it was a little of my first turning point in my career. Yeah. And I remember, and the reason that one is because I tell Katia that story many times, and I speak to the choreographer who chose me, and it was a big role, and Fernando Alonso was like, "Are you sure somebody like," they didn't not believe, but they were questioning whether I have enough experience to do it. And I told him, "Give me the chance," and he gave me the chance. And that from that moment, I started getting better roles, and that was a very good time.
Cool. Yeah.
Going to the future, which means now the past, From there was the future. There's so many. When I met Fernando Bujones, who does amazing. Then when I danced for the first time in history here in the United States in the role of Spartacus. Another turning point.
Yes. Weren't you the first one to do the full length in the U.S.?
According to the history, yes. I actually found out on the dance magazines when they did an article about it, and I read that director says that Orlando Ballet I became the first. I would say Cuban American. I believe they say American, but I'm Cuban American. Like the first Cuban American to perform, or a dancer to perform the full length of Spartacus in the United States.
That's
and the
so
Orlando
cool.
Ballet was the first company to ever, perform that ballet. So I don't know. That feels so good, and that felt so good to hear that. And then from there, it became my iconic, if I could say that, my iconic role. So a lot of people the guy who did Spartacus and stuff like that. Even today, I'm still doing some stuff like that. Spartacus. And then the solo called That's Life is a choreographer, or Anderson. It was Thurston, and it's another solo that really make a huge, in a positive way, a mark in my career. Those are beautiful moments, and obviously when I married my wife, Katya, that's obviously the biggest. I don't want to be cutting you off, but I remember coming to Mexico and then to the United States. I struggled a lot. Even though I didn't come here suffering a lot in terms of taking a lot of risks, like many of my friends and family have taken. I did have to learn how to basically grow up by myself. I left my family when I was 9, even though actually 10. I would see them 1 or 2 times a week, and my mother would take care of me with 5 sisters. When I moved to Monterrey, I need to learn to do a lot of stuff. I was young, and I had to, listen and learn, and I struggled a lot. It was hard when I came to the United States. Same thing with English and everything, and it was at first it was hard, but at the same time I get a lot of help from my friends in Monterrey, Mexico. Their name is Tito and Noni. I love them. Yeah, I don't know. So, anything else?
Cool. Well, what surprised you the most, both moving to Mexico and then moving to the U.S.? What was the biggest surprise?
If you ask that question to any Cuban, they will probably tell you, especially those who are here, is for us to go to another country, even if you will be able to come back to Cuba, because it had to do with Cuban companies touring other country, you will do that, and first you get a lot of experience, because you dance in other places. Second, economically, you get better. You can help your family, that was my main focus, was to help my mother and my family. Then when you have to make a decision to go to another country permanently, forever, leave your family behind, even though they may be able to live slightly better, because if you're able to make it over here, you're then able to help them. And I know any foreign, for that matter, but most Cuban, they will relate to what I'm saying. What surprised me was, like, even though you have a lot of opportunity, you are freedom and everything, it's like you need to really stay focused. It surprises me that everything had to do with, making money and paying rent, making money and paying car, surprises me how much money you actually can spend here compared to other places. I don't know if that's exactly what the answer you were looking for, but I was very surprised that now I have access to everything I dreamt.
Yes.
I want to be a filmmaker. Then I can just go to the bookstore and buy a book. I wanted to eat everything I want.
Yes.
struggle and stuff like that, right? And that it did not that surprise me. It's like how easy it was, which is kind of sad because that shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
But it's surprising, like as a filmmaker and as a person who loved to watch movie, when I was told that I could rent any movie I wanted to watch on that place, it surprises me how easy it was, you know?
Yeah. That's so cool. What is one thing you wish you could teach everyone?
The thing is, I do this as a teacher, as a tutor. I emphasize so much on what I'm about to tell you. Always communicate, regardless the situation. I am a person that I dislike when people have an assumption, like they assume something and then make decisions based on that without knowing the other side of the story.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been said that we all have different sides of the story, but what I'm saying is this goes in every aspect of life. In them is, if by any chance, you know, even if you're young, if you're a teacher, communicate with your student. If you're a student, communicate with your teachers in a very respectful way. Yeah. Let's say that sometimes us, teachers, may say something that you, as a student, take it personal. Maybe I say something that it sounds rude. Yeah. Fortunately, people that I work with, all the students that I have, in one way or another, including you know that I have my way of teaching. Sometimes I make jokes, even if they're rough, if they're like harsh. But you guys knew that I was joking, and you just move on and just joke. It is when you think like, oh, this teacher didn't respect me, or this teacher didn't say that I'm good, or that stuff like that. Have a good communication with your teacher. Communicate with them. That is something that I always advise any students, any parents. Only leave an assumption like, I don't think he likes me, or I don't think she likes me, whatever. Just communicate. You don't need to go and go, do you like me? No. Just, that's very important. Communicate. Yeah. Obviously, the respect, mutual respect. Yeah. Sometimes also it's important to keep it quiet. You know, sometimes although I'm talking a lot right now, but sometimes talking what you have in mind is not necessarily a good idea. And those things I would like to teach, I would like people to know, even you're a dancer or not, you know, make sure that your thought, when you assume something as a person, not necessarily that is the truth. Also, you have to, you know, listen to that voice and be quiet. And again, on the other side, it's good that people listen to you. You know, it is so important to take every advice of a teacher. And if it doesn't apply to you, always remember, put it in one place, because you never know when you're going to use it, when you are going to apply it. And don't take it for granted, because, again, maybe one day you would need that advice and what to do. Because when I was growing, I didn't get a lot of advice. And I wish that I have had more chance to talk, you know, about this. I was growing with my father, so I had to, you know, find the right person to talk about men stuff, you know. Right. I would say that it's mostly to continue advising Jan and everyone to communicate, like the same way I tell the parents, communicate, don't assume things.
Very nice. I like it. What is one thing you want to learn or learn more about?
Not related to ballet. I wish I could learn sing. How to. Yeah, that's the only thing I cannot. Well, not the only thing. I'm not going to say that I can do everything, but things that I want to learn, they're sometimes easy and other, you know. But singing is something that I've never been capable to do, even though I could. But singing, something. So, and the reason is because I play music, and I, you know, as you know that, like, I improvise and stuff like that. And when I listen to music, you can also express even more.
Right.
So when you dance, you express with your movements and stuff. When you sing, if you're a composer or if you're a songwriter that writes songs about your life or somebody's life or your family, and you get people to hear that, that's one thing I wanted to be able to do, singing.
Yes.
Want to be able to sing. And because also when you go to Broadway, sometimes if you don't know how to sing, you might not get the audition and stuff like that. Because, nowadays, whatever you want to learn, you have the social media and then you can learn, One thing that I really want to know, besides that, is when not prepare too much.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I'm making any sense. Sometimes, and I'm going to come across like I am an angel and everything, which I am not for any stretch of the word, but I grow in the faith that, we all were helping each other. I grew up with my mother and 5 sisters. I learned from my mother how to care about people, the elders, For one reason, that grow on you. It's not that you decide today to be a nice person. I think because back in the time, it's a little bit more personal. Back in the time, I saw a lot of conflict with my family, my father, my mom, and everything. That I learned that I'm not going to do the same thing. I want to like everyone. I want to help as much as I can everyone. It doesn't matter how much you hate me. I'm going to try to fix the problem. But sometimes for one reason, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to say something about myself, but it's true. I found myself caring too much about people. Even the people who does bad to me. For one reason, I would rather for that person to be in peace with me. For me, it's most important that peace in between 2 human beings, or 3 or 4, or a situation than the problem itself.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
You're right. If I made a mistake, again, when we make mistakes, a lot of times we make the mistake, even if you're grown up and you might say, you should know better. But I'm talking about, when I said mistake, I'm not talking about only life mistake. I'm talking about mistake of how to tell a correction and how to do this. Sometimes I'll go, I want to help this person, to help. And I'm not probably the only person that go through this. The difference is that I suffer sometimes in terms of friendship, in terms of what that person think about you. I don't think there's anything wrong. Maybe some people would say there's anything wrong about caring about people, but you have to be careful. If you want to
you can't let it hurt your soul.
Yeah.
I've had a situation like that before. So yes, I get that.
Is that?
Have you read the book The Gulag Archipelago?
No.
Okay, it's written by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and I've been reading it. It's about communism in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was curious, if you're willing to talk about it, what it was like in Cuba, especially because I grew up here, and it's
simple. It's something that everyone knows this. Growing in Cuba, people who knows me knows how much I love history and to learn, history from other countries, including mine. And when people tell me about the history of Cuba, I tell them everything I know, everything I study. But in Cuba, we mostly didn't learn so much history of other countries other than Russia and communist countries. Mm-hmm. So, and this has nothing to do with me talking about Cuba or whatever, but it's the truth. We were told that, USA was our enemy and everything, and I know they might base a lot of other stories from the past and everything, but that's what we go to history in Cuba, and we sit down there and we have the books of Lenin, the books, and of Russia, and we learn all the story about that.
Yeah.
But no history of the places, as far as I remember. I don't remember the country strongly so much until 1996, 1995, 7, when we call periodo especial, which is special periods.
Okay.
But in that time, we had to rely to other communist countries, and then we were being helped by them in terms of food, clothes. I don't remember having a problem going and buying eggs and stuff like that. And maybe also I will be hypocrite if I don't say that as a dancer and being able to go to other countries, I have less of a problem because I was able to help my family and to help myself.
Yeah.
But that was the time. I remember, little things as like internet, things like that.
Yeah.
Art. And when you don't have access to that, you only are, learning what is in that circle.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's one thing that's what I think I felt like we were repressed. Outside that, it was very hard. That's one of the surprises when I get to this country. It's like, all the, whoa, and when I left, there was no YouTube, there was nothing like that. Now it's different. Now, even in Cuba, it's different.
Yeah.
This is very common talk. This is nothing. I think it's the first time I actually talk about that, because I didn't talk about politics or anything. I have families in Cuba, and I know how they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how it is, how hard it is, especially now. It's very hard to have a normal life in Cuba. Very hard to have it. And I do still try to help them all the time. That's something that I wish something changes. Something changes that they are equally the same, that equally can get we as people, which are just like water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now we can go for another 10 hours talking about this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that you asked me to do this, and I'll do it anytime you want. I wish you good luck with this new endeavor, and I hope to talk to you soon, and I hope to see you in class soon. That's so cool.
If you would like to learn more about Israel Rodriguez, you can follow him on Instagram at Israel_Rodriguez_dance. To learn more about this podcast, follow at the.bookish.ballerina.podcast or at the.bookish.ballerina. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you for the next episode.